My name is Harry Daniels. I'm the Director of Aboriginal Rights Research for the Métis Association of Alberta, where we represent in the neighborhood of 70,000 Métis and non-status Indians, depending on how fast we're born or die. I'm going to speak more in the nature of politics and the political paralysis of the Liberal government and their inability and ineffectiveness, not only in contemporary society, but historically as well, to deal with our situation in a very objective and meaningful manner. There's a communique I have with me here on the Declaration of Principles and Canada's input in terms of Native people. It reads, "Special rights, needs, aspirations of Indigenous peoples must receive full consideration." That is their input on our behalf. Those are the people who are going to be our advocate. We have asked them and given them various recommendations that we'd like to see go through in Committee 3 in the land section, and they have not to date written in any part of our resolutions or recommendations into their position. They haven't had a position yet. All they have been doing, to my knowledge, at this UN Assembly is abstaining and passing the buck. As Duke mentioned, we met the Prime Minister on April the 15th of 1975. The Prime Minister, I should say. We gave him our position paper on Aboriginal rights as we see it. He assured us at that time that we would have a response within a month. We waited that month and further, and now it is 1976, and he is saying that we will probably have an answer before our annual assembly of all Métis and non-status Indians in Canada on June 29th of this year. Our people fought two wars of resistance in 1869-70 and 1885 for a free Indian nation in the West. And the battle cry at that time was, "Nous sommes une nouvelle nation," because we spoke French at that time, and Cree and English. We still adhere to that battle cry because we are the new nation. We are the only people who have evolved in this country, to our knowledge, or that I can really say evolved here, a visible entity, that we find our roots in the Indian nations here, but as Duke explained so succinctly, that we are the products of intermarriages. But no one in this government, in past governments, or in the first government, the only thing that they have done to deal with the Aboriginal rights of Métis and non-status Indians, as Duke again has said, is sent an army out to wage a war of extinction against the Métis and non-status Indians. We have been dispersed, and as a consequence, we are the most displaced people in Canada, or dispossessed. We do not have a land base. In every community where I come from in Saskatchewan and Alberta that I can speak of, in the north, they are bringing in tourism. My people have lived in those towns since time immemorial. They can't remember when the first people came there. They can't own land in those towns. Yet white people from the city can come out there and get title to their land and become landowners. Yet my people have to be squatters and live in 25-year leases or permits, or miscellaneous permits, to live on the land. So that means that when they incorporate those places into towns, my people will not be in the town council, they will not be in the school board, they will have nothing meaningful to do with that town, or hamlet, or settlement, or whatever it is, because they are not landowners, and landowners alone can vote. They are squatters in their own land, as we all are. I have maintained this attitude that the rest of Canadian society are interlopers in this land, and until such time as anyone deals objectively and to our satisfaction with our land rights, until then and only then will I change that attitude. And any one of you sitting out there who perpetuate and adhere to a system that does perpetuate the injustices that we as Métis and non-status Indians suffer, then you are just as guilty as that government, even if you vote for them. Unless, of course, you can change it and put a different system in there, which I don't know at this time. I can't describe one that may even satisfy our needs, unless, of course, it was run by us. And the only way we can get involved in meaningful government is at the local level, which means that our Aboriginal rights have to be reaffirmed, not recognized, reaffirmed. They recognized the Aboriginal rights of the Métis and non-status Indians over 100 years ago. They passed legislation, there was orders in council, there was dialogue between the people. MacDonald, the first Prime Minister, and his cohorts admitted it to themselves and to the public at large. And yet when they saw that the West could be exploited for farmland, and it was no longer only a fur-bearing country, it was not good and not feasible for them any longer to recognize the Aboriginal rights of the Métis and non-status Indians. For that matter, the Treaty Indians, who became Treaty Indians. So they passed legislation to supersede what had already gone on. And they have continued to do this until this date. And that is why we find ourselves in this particular situation. The only solution that we can have is to sit down with this government and hope we can change his myopic view of the whole overall situation and what we are facing. I have to agree with Duke when he says that Trudeau in the beginning came here and he talked about love and we should all deal with a passionate love. 2 days later he's selling nuclear arms. The only thing he loves is the bomb and destruction. Not only, we are not the only people suffering here. Don't get me wrong. This is not a crying forum. This is not a forum for me to salve our wounds or your wounds or anybody else's. If we win, poor people of this country are going to get better services. But as long as the poor people of this country, the poor whites and non-native people, can look down on poor native people as something lower in the social strata, then we will never see social change.